Conk's Corner! Conk's Corner! Conk's Corner! Conk's Corner! Mark! Hello, welcome everybody to Conk's Corner, where I read Harry Potter every single day for an hour. Never read it before. Do not spoil anything in the comments. If this is your first time on the live, welcome. Welcome to everybody just listening on YouTube. This here is Mark.
Hi.
This here is Dexter. Is my roommate. He is moving out. No, when are you moving out?
Well, all of our stuff got picked up by the moving company like an hour ago.
An hour ago.
And so Thursday we start our trip driving to Toronto.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, so Mark has been here. In case it's your first time and you haven't tuned in at all, Mark has been here from the very beginning, when he was sitting outside of the room listening to me and saying that the internet's not working or something else. And I said, what? Oh no, Dexter's eating his burrito. Buddy. And then Mark, I said, why don't you come in and listen? So he came in and listened, and he's been a great companion ever since. Mark, thank you for correcting me as often as you have. For
it's been my sincere pleasure.
Yeah, laughing at every single joke I've made.
No.
And agree with every single prediction. You've been a great companion, and I've bought you a gift.
Oh, did you?
I got you a pipe.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes.
Do you know that I collect pipes?
I did not know this.
I have many pipes.
And, surprise, surprise,
Lois is here.
somebody else is here. Lois is here. Lois, pop on in here. Lois has been making cupcakes, so she's surprising Mark with amazing pot cupcakes.
I didn't even consider or think, especially because I just talked to you on the stream. Oh, you're so sneaky.
Mark, Lois, come on in here and tell us what we got here. What kind of cupcakes we got?
So
this is the wonderful Lois. This is the moderator you see on YouTube. She's been doing amazing work. So what we got here?
So we have...
Dexter, you're not getting these.
No, they would be very bad for Dexter.
Wow.
They are dark chocolate cupcakes with a chocolate fireball ganache and a fireball buttercream and then a chocolate fireball drizzle. And of course, lightning bolt sprinkles.
Are you kidding me?
Amazing.
I mean,
Lois, you are the
It's as close
best.
to fire whiskey as we can get, right?
Holy, I cannot wait to chow down into that.
They're gonna be really messy though, so like, fair warning.
Yeah, okay, great. I brought an extra chair in case, Mark, you're wondering why there's an extra chair there.
I didn't even see it at all.
So she's gonna hang out while we do the read today. Party for Mark.
If you can indulge me before we start,
Absolutely.
I would love to say to everybody out there, it's been so great. I've so appreciated being here. A big special thank you to John. It's been so much fun to hang out every day with all of you, and yeah, I've really deeply appreciate appreciated every minute of it. Yeah,
we love you, buddy.
Oh, thanks.
It's been really great having you on. Fantastic. Big applause from Mark in the chat for everybody. Just throw some applause in there. Show him how much we love him. Oh man, I'm so excited to. But I know we're also gonna read. But yeah, thank you so much for being part of this. I'm really happy you were. And that you bothered me outside the door in the second read.
Something really simple, like people were bothered about your pronunciation.
What's that?
And like trying to convince you, like shouting at you in the chat, and then I ran up and was like, "It's pronounced."
Exactly, yeah. And I couldn't read at the same time. Look at all those claps for Mark. Okay, everybody, we're gonna get into the reading. What happened last time? I can't even. Gosh, I just spent 8 hours traveling back from the cabin I was at for the weekend. We saw a bear this morning in the yard. So I just got here, just set everything up. So I just have to remember where did we end up? A girl was laughing, scrawny boy enough. Harry felt he pushed hard in his chest. Oh yeah. The lesson with Snape, right? Where they went into Snape and he saw a little bit of Snape's history. Yeah. That was the last thing that happened. That was a great scene. Flatman's back again. Explain yourself. You're lazy and sloppy. Commotion from the entrance hall. right? And so then they ran out there, and that's where we stopped because it's going to be another big scene. Okay, I'm going to have a little glass of water.
Oh, damn.
Good?
Oh, damn.
It seems good. It seems very good. And on the 8th day, he said, he created a muffins and appointed Lois the cupcake maker. Okay. You're not working hard enough. That's where I'll start from, on page 523 if you're following along. Lois, this is the first time you're seeing it from this angle, huh?
It's true. It's a whole new ballgame.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, huh?
It's okay. I've still got the regular angle on my phone.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, you're not working hard enough, from Snape. For some reason, Snape seemed even angrier than he had been 2 minutes before, when Harry had seen into his teacher's memories. Sorry, I'm just going to get this keyboard out of the way, and then I'll be settled enough to start this off. Yeah, okay, there we go. You're lazy and sloppy, Potter. It is small wonder that the Dark Lord... Can you tell me something, sir? Said Harry, firing up again. Why do you call Voldemort the Dark Lord? I've only ever heard only... I didn't do a warm-up either. I've only heard the Death Eaters call him that. I've only ever heard Death Eaters call him that. Snape opened his mouth in a snarl, and a woman screamed from somewhere outside the room. Snape's head jerked upwards. He was gazing at the ceiling. What the... he muttered. Harry could hear a muffled commotion coming from what he thought might be the entrance hall. Snape looked round at him, frowning. Did you see anything unusual on your way down here, Potter? Harry shook his head. Somewhere above them, the woman screamed again. Snape strode to his office door, his wand still held at the ready, and swept out of sight. Harry hesitated for a moment, then followed. I'm assuming we'll get some intense music, intense scenes, so I'll switch this over to a creepy time. Lois, what would you give my my stage management abilities here?
They're pretty good.
Yeah? Yeah, woo woo!
I mean, sometimes I think you need an actual stage.
Yeah, probably.
Pretty good. High praise from Lois.
Yeah. So Lois, you've been stage managing for how long?
20 years?
20
probably.
years. She's phenomenal. It's crazy good at everything she does. Everything. Cupcakes, stage managing, being a friend.
That was amazing.
The screams were indeed coming from the entrance hall. They grew louder as Harry ran towards the stone steps leading up from the dungeons. When he reached the top, he found the entrance hall packed. Students had come flooding out of the great hall, where dinner was still in progress, to see what was going on. Others had crammed themselves onto the marble staircase. Harry pushed forward through a knot of tall Slytherins, and saw that the onlookers had formed a great ring, some of them looking shocked, others even frightened. Professor McGonagall was directly opposite Harry on the other side of the hall. She looked as though what she was watching made her feel faintly sick. Ooh, what's going on here? Hey, buddy, come up here. Professor Trelawney was standing in the middle of the entrance hall. I need my teddy bear because I'm getting scared. Professor Trelawney was standing in the middle of the entrance hall with her wand in one hand and an empty sherry bottle in the other, looking utterly mad. Her hair was sticking up on end. Her glasses were lopsided so that one eye was magnified more than the other. Her innumerable shawls and scarves were trailing haphazardly from her shoulders, giving the impression that she was falling apart at the seams. Oh, man. 2 large trunks lay on the floor beside her, one of them upside down. It looked very much as though it had been thrown down the stairs after her. Professor Trelawney was staring apparently terrified at something Harry could not see, but which seemed to be standing at the foot of the stairs. Ay, 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 ay. No! She shrieked. No! This cannot be happening! It cannot! I refuse to accept it! Professor Umbridge, okay. You didn't realize this was coming, said a high, girlish voice, sounding callously amused. And Harry, moving slightly to his right, saw that Trelawney's terrifying vision was nothing other than Professor Umbridge. Incapable though you are of predicting even tomorrow's weather, you must surely have realized that your pitiful performance during my inspections and lack of any improvement would make it inevitable that you will be sacked. Umbridge.
Boo!
You can't! Howled Professor Trelawney, tears streaming down her face from behind her enormous lenses. You can't sack me! I've been here 16 years! Hogwarts is my home! It was your home, said Woof. Woof, said Professor Umbridge. And Harry was revolted to see the enjoyment stretching her toad-like face as she watched Professor Trelawney sink, sobbing uncontrollably, onto one of her trunks. Until an hour ago, when the Minister for Magic countersigned your order of dismissal. Now, kindly remove yourself from this hall. You are embarrassing us. Oh, she's the worst. Oh, that gets another boo.
Boo!
Boo. Yay! Yay, Umbridge! I'll just do exactly what she would do. Just be very happy and say the worst things. Ah, that's so mean in front of everybody. But she stood...
One character sucks so bad.
Yeah, she took all the tropes of every sucky character and put them in one person.
Awful.
But she stood and watched with an expression of gloating enjoyment as Professor Trelawney shuddered and moaned, rocking backwards and forwards on her trunk in paroxysms. Paroxysms.
Paroxysms?
Paroxysms?
Yeah, I think.
What does it mean?
I don't know.
Paroxysms.
I don't know.
Paroxysms of grief. Harry heard a muffled sob to his left and looked around. Lavender and Parvati were both crying quietly, their arms round each other. Then he heard footsteps. Professor McGonagall had broken away from the spectators, marched straight up to Professor Trelawney, and was patting her firmly on the back while withdrawing a large handkerchief from within her robes. Oh, really, Professor McGonagall? Said Umbridge in a deadly voice. Oh, okay. Taking a few steps forward. And your authority for... Oh, wait, she said something, sorry. Oh, no, wait, Professor Trelawney, McGonagall said so. There, Sybil. Calm down. Blow your nose on this. It's not as bad as you think, no. You're not going to have to leave Hogwarts. Oh, really, Professor McGonagall? Said Umbridge in a deadly voice, taking a few steps forward. And your authority for that statement is... That would be mine, said a deep voice. I don't know who this is. The oaken front doors had swung open. Students beside them scuttled out of the way as Dumbledore appeared in the entrance. Yeah, just the Savior. The Savior has appeared. Oh! What he had been doing out in the grounds, Harry could not imagine. Just stalking around, looking up at windows. Should I enter now? Or should I enter later? No. There was something impressive about the sight of him framed in the doorway against an oddly misty night. He'd set up lights right behind the door.
Waiting for his line.
Yeah.
That would be mine!
It's so funny. He's always so impressive because he's always well prepared. He's always planned out all these moments. He's like, I think it would be good if I popped in right when you're comforting her and then say something that would set her up. I'm like, now I'm here. Oh!
What if he missed his cue?
Yeah, it's just 5 minutes later when nobody's in the hallway.
Alternatively, he walks in too soon and is slowly backing up and closing the doors. Sorry.
That would be...
Oh, yeah. Somebody just punch Umbridge in the face, please. Lol. Aragon opening the throne room. Yeah, pretty much. What he had been doing out in the grounds, Harry could not imagine. But there was something impressive about the sight of him framed in the doorway against an oddly misty night. Leaving the doors wide open behind him, he strode forwards through the circle of onlookers towards Professor Trelawney, tear-strained and trembling on her trunk, Professor McGonagall beside her. Yours, Professor Dumbledore, said Umbridge, with a singularly unpleasant little laugh.
I'm afraid you do not understand the position. I have here,
She pulled a parchment scroll from within her robes.
an order of dismissal signed by myself and the Minister for Magic. Under the terms of Educational Decree number 23, the High Inquisitor of Hogwarts has the power to inspect, place upon probation, and sack any teacher she, that is to say I, feel is not performing to the standards required by the Minister of Magic. I have decided that Professor Trelawney is not up to scratch. I have dismissed her.
Ugh. I hate her. To Harry's very great surprise, Dumbledore continued to smile. He looked down at Professor Trelawney, who was still sobbing and choking on her choking on her trunk. Choking on her trunk? She's like trying to eat the trunk. What? She's so distraught, she starts eating objects around her. Still sobbing and choking on her trunk, and said,
You are quite right, of course, Professor Umbridge. As High Inquisitor, you have every right to dismiss my teachers. You do not, however, have the authority to send them away from the castle. I'm afraid,
he went on with a courteous little bow,
that the power to do that still resides with the headmaster, and it is my wish that Professor Trelawney continue to live at Hogwarts.
At this, Professor Trelawney gave a wild little laugh, in which a hiccup was barely hidden. Tried that. Really tried that out. No, I'll go, Dumbledore. She's turning into a ghost. I'll go, Dumbledore. I shall leave Hogwarts and seek my fortune elsewhere.
No,
said Dumbledore sharply.
it is my wish that you remain, Sybil.
He turned to Professor McGonagall.
Might I ask you to escort Sybil back upstairs, Professor McGonagall?
Of course, said McGonagall. Up you get, Sybil. Professor Sprout came hurrying forwards out of the crowd and grabbed Professor Trelawney by the throat, throwing her... Sorry. Professor Sprout came hurrying forwards out of the crowd and grabbed Professor Trelawney's other arm. Just Professor Sprout has some lingering grudge. He just comes up and starts choking Trelawney.
You will not stay.
You must go. Oh, that's so dumb. I love it. Together, they guided her past Umbridge and up the marble stairs. Professor Flitwick went past Umbridge and up the marble stairs. Professor Flitwick went scurrying after them, his wand held high before him. He squeaked, "Locomotor trunks!" And Professor Trelawney's luggage rose into the air and proceeded up the staircase after her, Professor Flitwick bringing up the rear. Little team, I like it. Professor Umbridge was standing stock still, staring at Dumbledore, who continued to smile benignly. I love that.
And what,
she said in a whisper that carried all around the entrance hall,
are you going to do with her once I appoint a new divination teacher who needs her lodgings?
Oh, that won't be a problem,
said Dumbledore pleasantly.
You see, I have already found us a new divination teacher, and he will prefer lodgings on the ground floor.
You found,
said Umbridge shrilly.
You've found? Might I remind you, Dumbledore, that under Educational Decree number 22...
The Ministry has the right to appoint a suitable candidate if, and only if, the headmaster is unable to find one, said Dumbledore. And I am happy to say that on this occasion I have succeeded. May I introduce you?
He turned to face the open front doors, through which night mist was now drifting. It's like so epic. Night mist. Harry heard hooves. I'm so excited to see who this is. There was a shocked murmur around the hall, and those nearest the doors hastily moved even further backwards. Some of them tripping over in their haste to clear a path for the newcomer.
I know who it is.
Through the mist came a face Harry had seen once before on a dark, dangerous night in the Forbidden Forest. White blonde hair and astonishingly blue eyes. The head and the head and torso of a man joined to the palomino body of a horse. Oh, wait.
This is Firenze.
Said Dumbledore happily to a thunderstruck Umbridge.
I think you'll find him suitable.
Wait a second. I thought this was Lockhart.
No, it's the Italian centaur.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh, the Italian's back, baby!
As soon as it said hooves, I was like,
A centaur is teaching a class?
well, of course. You remember that scene where he's just like, they ask him a question, he's just like, Mars is bright tonight.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. The guy who always drifts off. Yes. This is gonna be great. Oh, wicked.
Are you gonna keep him Italian?
Of course. No doubt. Return of the bad Italian accents, baby. Italian stallion. Oh man, I for a second when they said blonde hair and blue eyes, I thought Lockhart was returning.
Oh, you missed the hooves?
I thought he was on a horse or something.
Oh.
And he arrived on the horse and jumped off, flaring like, "Oh, here I am," you know. But I'm equally happy about this. This guy's not been around. So just a quick reminder, Lois, you can help us with this too. He was the first centaur we met, because there was two others that popped in at one point.
Yeah.
First centaur we met, he was the space cadet who just like stared off and talked, right? And what else did he do? What I kind of forget what he did back then.
Didn't he also like save them from something creepy?
He was there when Pearl was drinking the unicorn blood in the forest.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh right, yeah. There's some kind of fight, and he. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just basically Italian space cadet. Chapter 27: The Centaur and the Sneak. He rescued Harry, and the other one was mad. He let him ride on his back. Right. Yeah. Carried Harry back to Hagrid. Oh, this music doesn't fit anymore. There we go. Still nighttime, so we'll leave it on this. The Centaur and the Sneak. What's the Sneak? I'll just let you. It's your last time. We're just gonna let that happen. The Sneak. Okay, the Centaur and the Sneak. I bet you wish you hadn't given up divination now, don't you, Hermione? Asked Parvati, smirking. It was breakfast time, 2 days after the sacking of Professor Trelawney, and Parvati was curling her eyelashes around her wand. Come on. And examining the effect in the back of her spoon. They were to have their first lesson with Firenze that morning. Not really, said Hermione indifferently, reading the Daily Prophet. I've never really liked horses. She turned a page of the newspaper and scanned its columns. He's not a horse, he's a centaur, said Lavender, sounding shocked. A gorgeous centaur, sighed Parvati. Either way, he's still got 4 legs, said Hermione coolly. Anyway, I thought you two were all upset that Trelawney had gone. We are, Lavender assured her. We She speaks so quickly. We went up to her office to see her. We took off some daffodils, not the honking ones that Sprouts got. Nice ones. How is she? Asked Harry. Not very good, poor thing, said Lavender sympathetically. She was crying and said she'd rather leave the castle forever than stay here where Umbridge is, and I don't blame her. Umbridge was horrible to her, wasn't she? I've got a feeling Umbridge has only just started being horrible, said Hermione darkly. I hope that's not true. Impossible, said Ron, who was tucking into a large plate of eggs and bacon. She can't get any worse than she's been already. Who is this? Hermione. You mark my words, she's going to want revenge on Dumbledore for appointing a new teacher without consulting her, said Hermione, closing the newspaper. Especially another part human. You saw the look on her face when she said frenzy. After breakfast, Hermione departed for arithmancy class, as Harry and Ron followed Parvati and Lavender into the entrance hall, heading for divination. Aren't we going up to the North Tower? Asked Ron, looking puzzled, as Parvati bypassed the marble staircase. Parvati looked at him scornfully over her shoulder. How'd you expect Frenzy to climb that ladder? We're in classroom 11 now. It was on the notice board yesterday. Classroom.
That's why he prefers the bottom floor.
Yeah. He's just gonna try to get up that ladder as a horse. Parvati, not Pavarti. All right. Thank you, Mo Luther. Parvati. No, that's not pedantric. Is that the right word? That's great. Thank you. What seems out of character for her? Somebody said this seems out of character for her.
Hermione not being okay with a half horse, but being okay with elves.
True. Yeah. Classroom 11 was on the ground floor along the corridor leading off the entrance hall from the opposite side to the Great Hall. Harry knew it was one of those classrooms that were never used regularly, and therefore had the slightly neglected feeling of a cupboard or storeroom. When he entered it right behind Ron and found himself in the middle of a forest clearing, he was therefore momentarily stunned. The classroom floor had become springingly mossy, and trees were growing out of it. Their leafy branches fanned across the ceiling and windows, so that the room was full of slanting shafts of soft, dappled green light. The students, who had already arrived, were sitting on the earthy floor with their backs resting against tree trunks and boulders, arms wrapped around their knees or folded tightly across their chests, and all looking rather nervous. In the middle of the clearing, where there were no trees, stood Firenze. Harry Potter! he said, holding out a hand when Harry entered. Hi, said Harry, shaking hands with the centaur, who surveyed him unblinkingly through those astonishingly blue eyes, but did not smile. Good to see you. And you, said the centaur, inclining his white... Well, you can't handle it? You can't handle the truth? Inclining his white blonde head. It was foretold that we would meet again.
He's supposed to be this, like, amazingly mystical being.
What? They can't?
Harry Potter.
What he can't be if he's Italian?
Sounds so weird.
Harry noticed that there was a shadow of a hoof-shaped bruise on Firenze's chest. Oh. Mating season. As he turned to join the rest of the class on the ground, he saw they were all looking at him in awe, apparently deeply impressed that he was on speaking terms with Firenze, who they seemed to find intimidating. When the door was closed and the last student had sat down on a tree stump beside the waste paper basket, Firenze gestured around the room. Professor Dumbledore! I could also make him a bit more deeper and... Sorry, I got a hair in my mouth or something. I'm gonna try. I'll still play around with this Italian guy. It's deeper. Yeah. Look, a sexy Italian. Okay, well, Professor Dumbledore has kindly arranged. There's a classroom for us, said Firenze, when everyone had settled down. In imitation. How am I gonna do that word in Italian? It's actually so hard. In imitation of of my natural habitat. Jeez, oh jeez. Oh man. Oh, no. I would have preferred to teach you in the Forbidden Forest, which was, until Monday, my home. But that is no longer impossible.
Please, sir?
Said Parvati, breathlessly, raising her hand. Why not? She's got the hots for this horseman. There we go. We've been in there with Hagrid. We're not frightened. It is not a question of your bravery, said Firenze, but of my position. I cannot return to the forest. My herd has banished me. Herd? Said Lavender in a confused voice, and Harry knew she was thinking of cows. What? Oh! Comprehension dawned on her face. There are more of you? She said, stunned. Who's this? Dean, once again. Oh yeah, he's Keanu.
Did Hagrid breed you? Like the Thestrals?
Asked Dean eagerly. Firenze turned his head very slowly to face Dean, who seemed to realize at once that he had said something very offensive. What's the Thestrals again?
There's ghost horses that you can only see if you've seen someone
Right.
die.
Gotcha. Of course, those two are horse girls.
I didn't mean... I meant... Sorry.
Oh no, wait, sorry. This is Dean. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't mean. I meant. Sorry.
He finished in a hushed voice. Centaurs are not the servants of playthings of humans, said Firenze quietly. There was a pause. Then Parvati raised her hand again.
But please, sir, why have the other centaurs banished you?
Because I have agreed to work for Professor Dumbledore, said Firenze. They see that this is a betrayal of our kind. Harry remembered how, nearly 4 years ago, the centaur Bane had shouted at Firenze for allowing Harry to ride to safety on his back. He had called him a common mule. He wondered whether it had been Bane who had kicked Firenze in the chest. Let us begin, said Firenze. By the way, I've gotten permission from actual Italians in the chat to continue this accent.
Is it a kick if it's with his front hooves, or is it a punch?
Oh, what a good question. Oh, jeez. Oh, why does this have to break my brain right now?
But I guess he also has arms, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you can kick forwards, right? Humans can kick forwards.
Okay, yeah, so it's a kick.
It's
with front legs, too.
But it's also... It's a kick punch. It's a pinch. It's a pinch. He swished his long palomino tail, raised his hand toward the leafy canopy overhead, then lowered it slowly, and as he did so, the light in the room dimmed, so that now they seemed to be sitting in the forest clearing by twilight, and stars appeared on the ceiling. I need to get more lights in here. I haven't had time to play around with more lights, but we got some stars, we've got some light time. Sitting in the forest clear by twilight, and stars appeared on the ceiling. There were oohs and gasps, and Ron said audibly, "Blimey!" Go with your first choice there. I liked where it was heading. For what?
The kick or punch.
Oh, the pinch. Lie back on the floor. Lie back on the floor, said Firenze in his calm voice now. Oh yeah, he's dreamy, right? And observe the heavens. Here it is written, for those who can see, the fortune of our races. Harry stretched out on his back and gazed upwards at the ceiling. A twinkling red star winked at him from overhead. Aha! I know that you have learned the names of the planets and their moons in astronomy, said Firenze's calm voice, and that you have mapped the stars' progress through the heavens. Centaurs have unraveled the mysteries of these movements over centuries. Our findings teach us that the future may be glimpsed in the sky above us. Professor Trelawney did astrology with us, said Parvati excitedly, raising her hand in front of her so that it stuck up in the air as she lay on her back. Mars causes accidents and burns and things like that, and when it makes an angle to Saturn, like now, she drew a right angle in the air above her. That means people need to be extra careful when handling hot things. That, said Ferenzi calmly, is human nonsense. Parvati's hand fell limply to her side. A trivial hurts. Tiny human accidents, said Ferenzi, as his hooves thudded above the mossy floor. These are no more significant than the scurryings of ants to the wider universe, and are unaffected by planetary movements. Professor Trelawney, began Parvati, in a hurt and indignant voice, is a human, said Ferenzi simply, and is therefore blinkered and fettered by the limitations of your kind. Harry turned his head very slightly to look at Parvati. She looked very offended, as did several of the people surrounding her. Ooh, yeah, I get that. Observe the heavens. This is actually a censored version of the students smoking pot and gazing at the stars. They're just imagining the teacher. Yeah. Very offended. Sibyl Trelawney may have seen. I do not know, continued Ferenzi, and Harry heard the swishing of his tail again as he walked up and down before them. But she wastes her time in the self-flattering nonsense humans call fortune-telling. I, however, am here to explain the wisdom of centaurs, which is impersonal and impartial. I don't even know where it's going now. We watch the skies for the great tides of evil, or a change that are sometimes marked there. It may take 10 years to be sure what we are seeing. Okay, so he's getting down to actual business here. Well, his version of business. They just watch the skies. That's all. They just watch it. And it's just whenever it happens. It may take 10 years for anything to happen.
They interpret everything in bigger patterns that have to do with like larger events.
Right.
They don't care about the mundane.
So Trelawney's she's immediate predictions and they're long-term predictions basically, or long-term prophecy.
Or just like, yeah. I mean, from his perspective, it sounds like he's saying that his stuff is actually what matters and what is accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I like his version better, even though it sounds like Trelawney's predicted some actual things.
Right, but from an astrological perspective.
Yeah, yeah. This is... Oh, I love how humorless centaurs are. Not sure why. Ferenzi pointed to the red star directly above Harry. In the past decade, the indications have been that a wizard kind is living through nothing more than a brief calm between the two wars. Mars, bringer of a battle, shines brightly above us, suggesting that the fight must soon break out again. How soon? Centaurs may attempt to divine by the burning of certain herbs and leaves, by the observation of fume and a flame. It was the most unusual lesson Harry had ever attended. They did indeed burn sage and mallow sweets there on the classroom floor. And Ferenzi told them to look for certain shapes and symbols in the pungent fumes, but he seemed perfectly unconcerned that not one of them could see any of the signs he described, telling them that humans were hardly ever good at this, that it took centaurs years and years to become competent, and finished by telling them that it was foolish to put too much faith in such things. Anyway, because even centaurs sometimes read them wrongly. He was nothing like any human teacher Harry had ever had. His priority did not seem to be to teach them what he knew, but rather to impress upon them that nothing, not even centaur's knowledge, was foolproof. He's not very definite on anything, is he? Said Ron in a low voice, as they put out their mallow-sweet fire. I mean, I could do with a few more details about this war we're about to have, couldn't you? Premonitions. I think your version of predictions is way better than Ferenzi's, John. Of course, because mine are always right. You know, I do spend my evenings once Mark has gone to bed, you know, and everybody's sleeping. I just look out the window for hours at the stars, and they tell me what's next in these books. They tell me. The stars are prophets, and I am their messenger. The bell rang outside the classroom door, and everyone jumped. Harry had completely forgotten that they were still inside the castle, and quite convinced that he was really in the forest. The class filed out, looking slightly perplexed. Harry and Ron were on the point of following... them when Firenze called, Harry Potter, a word, please. Harry turned. The centaur advanced a little towards him. Clop, clop, clop. Ron hesitated. You can't forget that, right? He's got clops everywhere he goes. Ron hesitated. You must stay. You may stay. Firenze told him, but to close the door, please. Ron hastened to obey. Harry Potter, you are a friend of Hagrid's, are you not? Said the centaur. Yes, said Harry. Then give him a warning from me. His attempt is not working. He would do better to abandon it. His attempt is not working? Harry repeated blankly. And he would do better to abandon it, said Firenze, nodding. I would warn Hagrid myself, but I am banished. It would be unwise for me to go too near to the forest now. Hagrid has troubles enough without the centaur's battle. Without the centaur's battle. But what's Hagrid attempting to do? Said Harry nervously. Firenze surveyed Harry impassively. Hagrid has recently rendered me a great service, said Firenze, and he has long since earned my respect for the care he shows all the living creatures. I shall not betray his secret. I don't know what I'm doing anymore with this accent. But he must be brought to his senses. The attempt is not working. Tell him, Harry Potter, a good day to you. Wow. Have I ruined this character completely? I sure have.
Actually, at first I was concerned that you might have, but now it's grown on me and I'm into it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sweet. Nice. Good. Hagrid is running for POTUS. Please do the Italian hand gesture while reading Firenze.
You are. It's just like down low. You're just like,
I'm just...
every time you say it, you're just doing this.
It helps me to attempt to do voice. Clop, clop, clop. Banish. Okay. Yeah, interesting first lesson. He just doesn't care about humans getting it or not getting it. He's eternal. How long do these horsemen live?
Centaurs?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Alright, let's keep going, shall we? The happiness Harry had felt in the aftermath of the Quibbler interview had long since evaporated. No surprise. As a dull March blurred into a squally April, his life seemed to have become one long series of worries and problems again. Umbridge had continued attending all care of magical creatures lessons, so it had been very difficult to deliver Firenze's warning to Hagrid. At last, Harry had managed it by pretending he'd lost his copy of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. The next movie after the series coming out! And doubling back after class one day. When he'd repeated Firenze's words, Hagrid gazed at him for a moment through his puffy, blackened eyes, apparently taken aback. Then he seemed to pull himself together again.
Oh, nice bloke, Firenze, he said gruffly. But he don't know what he's talking about on this. The attempt's coming on fine.
Hagrid, what are you up to? asked Harry seriously. Because you've got to be careful. Umbridge has already sacked Trelawney, and if you ask me, she's on a roll. If you've done anything you shouldn't be, you'll be...
This thing's more important than keeping a job,
said Hagrid, though his hands shook slightly as he said this, and a basin full of gnarl droppings crashed to the floor.
Don't worry about me, Harry. Just get along now. There's a good lad.
Ah. So my premonition was that he's fighting, no, he's training. He's training people. Or training whoever. So,
Giants.
no,
Your premonition was that he was training giants, or training with the giants.
what was it, Giants?
Training somebody up to also prepare. He's not getting beat up. It has something to do with giants. He's training with them.
So it has something to do with giants. We'll always be right since Hagrid is a giant. So he's definitely training.
Cop out.
What?
I
What?
believe that is cheating, John.
What's cheating about it? I mean, it's in the premonition. It's in the premonition. Everybody hates me. John's version: Mud Baby and Horseman. Yeah, that's basically how Rowling decided on names. She just picked different things and mashed them together. Do we need to buy John a coconut? What for? For a bra coconut? I'll wear it.
For the clop, 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 clop.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that works kind of. All right. He's like, get out of here. Get out of here, Harry. Harry had no choice but to leave Hagrid mopping up the dung all over his floor. What, dung? What was there dung? Forget.
What? It just talked about it.
I know, but I guess I was excited about Hagrid and forgot. What was the dung again?
It just fell.
What? Oh, from the heavens?
I don't know. It fell or something. I can't remember. It, like literally just happened.
Anyway, there's dung. He's mopping up crap.
Yeah.
But he felt thoroughly dispirited as he trudged back up to the castle. Meanwhile, also, I'm gonna go along today because it's Mark's last time. You got time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go along today, and not now. Just think of questions you want to ask Mark.
Aw.
Yeah. At the end. Meanwhile, as the teachers and Hermione persisted in reminding them, the owls were drawing ever nearer, as the fifth years were suffering from stress to some degree, but Hannah Abbott became the first to receive a calming draught from Madame Pomfrey after she burst into tears during herbology and sobbed that she was too stupid to take exams and wanted to leave school now. If it had not been for the DA lessons, Harry thought he would have been extremely unhappy. He sometimes felt he was living for the hours he spent in the room of requirement, working hard but thoroughly enjoying himself at the same time, swelling with pride as he looked around at his fellow DA members and saw how far they had come. Indeed, Harry sometimes wondered how Umbridge was going to react when all the members of the DA received outstanding in their defense against the dark arts owls. They'd finally started work on Patronuses, which everybody had been very keen to practice, though, as Harry kept reminding them. Which everybody had been very keen to practice, though, as Harry kept reminding them, producing a Patronus in the middle of a brightly lit classroom when they were not under threat was very different from producing it when confronted by something like a Dementor. Man, there were so many commas in that sentence. We all three of us, we've had the same teacher in university. We all went to the same university, Trinity Weston. We had a teacher. His name was Aaron Caleb. He was a theater professor, my favorite professor. You're on stream. He won't watch it. He'll never watch it. He'll never see this. No. But I loved him. He taught something that was very beneficial in reading through all this. It's called egg lines. When there's like ever a comma where it says something else, it's an egg line. You drop down the volume or raise it from the previous energy of a line. So a sentence like this where there's 7 commas, it's like, thank goodness for egg lines. I know it's called egg lines, maybe because you drop it. Probably that. Yeah.
Because you dropped the egg?
Yeah, because you dropped the ed. 2 hours? What? That's so generous. Sherry, you're premonitioning a little to yourself there, you know?
Yeah. I don't have 2 hours.
You don't have 2 hours,
I can
okay.
go to 7:30.
Okay, cool. Don't be such a killjoy, said Cho brightly, watching her silvery swan-shaped Patronus soar around the room of requirement during their last lesson before Easter. They're so pretty! They're not supposed to be pretty, they're supposed to protect you, said Harry patiently. What we really need is a boggart or something. That's how I learned. I had to conjure Patronus while the boggart was pretending to be a Dementor. But that would be really scary, said Lavender, who was shooting puffs of... I differentiate between Lavender and Parvati. Who was shooting puffs of silver vapor out of the end of her wand. And I still can't do it, she added angrily. Neville was having trouble too. His face was screwed up in concentration, but only feeble wisps of silver smoke issued from his wand tip. You've got to think of something happy, Harry reminded him. I'm trying, said Neville miserably. He was trying so hard, his round face was actually shining with sweat. Harry, I think I'm doing it, yelled Seamus, who had been brought along to his first ever DA meeting by Dean. Look, it's gone, but it was definitely something Harry. Hermione's Patronus, a shining silver otter, was gamboling. Oh, what's that word? Gamboling around her. They are sort of nice, aren't they? She said, looking at it fondly. The door of the room of requirement opened and closed. Harry looked round to see who had entered, but there did not seem to be anybody there. It was a few moments before he realized that the people close to the door had fallen silent. Uh-oh. Next thing he knew, something was tugging at his robe somewhere near the knee. He looked down and saw, to his very great astonishment, oh, Dobby! Okay, good. I thought it was Umbridge. Dobby the house elf peering up at him from beneath his usual 8 woolly hats. Hi, Dobby, he said. What's wrong? The elf's eyes were wide with terror and he was shaking. The members of the DA closest to Harry had fallen silent. Everybody in the room was watching Dobby. The few Patronuses people had managed to conjure faded away into silver mist, leaving the room looking much darker than before. Harry Potter! Sir! Squeaked the elf, trembling from head to foot. Harry Potter! Sir! Dobby has come to warn you! But the house elves have been warned not to tell! He ran headfirst at the wall. Oh, jeez. Oh, no, not again. Harry, who had some experience of Dobby's habits of self-punishment, made to seize him. But Dobby merely bounced off the stone, cushioned by his 8 hats. Hermione and a few of the other girls let out squeaks of fear and sympathy. What's happened, Dobby? Harry asked, grabbing the elf's tiny arm and holding him away from anything with which he might seek to hurt himself. Intense music indeed. Okay, sure. I got really intense music or the typical stuff? Let me know. Harry Potter! She... Dobby hit himself hard on the nose with his free fist. Oh man, Harry seized that too. Who's she, Dobby? But he thought he knew. Surely only one she could induce such fear in Dobby. The elf looked up at him, slightly cross-eyed, and mouthed wordlessly. Umbridge. Boo! Boo indeed, boo! Asked Harry, horrified. Dobby nodded, then tried to bang his head on Harry's knees. Harry held him at arm's length. What about her? Dobby, she hasn't found out about this. About us. About the DA? He read the answer in the elf's stricken face. His hands held fast by Harry. The elf tried to kick himself and fell to the floor. Is she coming? Harry asked quietly. Dobby let out a howl and began beating his bare feet hard on the floor. Yes, Harry Potter! Yes! Harry straightened up and looked around at the motionless, terrified people gazing at the thrashing elf. What are you waiting for? Harry bellowed. Run! They all pelted toward the exit at once. I'm going to put on some other music. Forming a scrum at the door, and people burst through. Harry could hear them sprinting along the corridors and hoped they had the sense not to try and make it all the way to their dormitories. It was only 10 to 9. If they just took refuge in the library or the owlery, which were both nearer. Harry, come on! Shrieked Hermione from the center of the knot of people now fighting to get out. He scooped up Dobby, who was still attempting to do himself serious injury, and ran with the elf in his arms to join the back of the queue. Dobby, this is an order. Get back down to the kitchen with the other elves, and if she asks you whether you warned me, lie and say no, said Harry. And I forbid you to hurt yourself, he added, dropping the elf as he made it over the threshold at last and slammed the door behind him.
Thank you, Harry Potter,
squeaked Dobby, and he streaked off. Harry glanced left and right. The others... Oh, that's very loud. I know for you it's much, much louder than it is for me here. So I'm going to bring it down a little bit. Is this too much? Let me know. Squeaked Dobby, and he streaked off. Harry glanced left and right. The others were all moving so fast he caught only glimpses of flying heels at either end of the corridor before they vanished. He started to run right. There was a boys' bathroom up ahead. He could pretend he'd been in there all the time if he could just reach it. Ah! Something caught him around the ankles, and he fell spectacularly, skidding along in his front 4-6 feet before coming to a halt. Perfect for me, that's good. Okay. Someone behind him was laughing. He rolled over onto his back and saw Malfoy concealed in a niche beneath an ugly dragon-shaped vase. Trip Jinx, Potter, he said. Hey, Professor! Professor! I've got one! Umbridge came bustling round the far corner, breathless but wearing a delighted smile.
It's him,
she said jubilantly at the sight of Harry on the floor. Excellent.
Excellent, Draco. Excellent. Oh, very good. 50 points to Slytherin. I'll take him from here. Stand up, Potter.
So I'll just put on the other creep music. That's a bit too much. Harry got to his feet, glaring at the pair of them. He had never seen Umbridge looking so happy. She seized his arm in a vice-like grip and turned, beaming broadly, to Malfoy.
You hop along and see if you can round up any more of them, Draco, she said. Tell the others to look in the library. Anyone out of breath, check the bathrooms. Miss Parkinson can do the girl ones. Off you go.
When you gotta go.
And you.
It's toilet
she added.
time.
It's toilet time. Miss Parkinson can do the girls ones. Off you and you, she added in her softest, most dangerous voice as Malfoy walked away. You can come with me to the headmaster's office, Potter.
They were at the stone gargoyle within minutes. Harry wondered how many of the others had been caught. He thought of Ron. Mrs. Weasley would kill him, and of how Hermione would feel as if she was expelled before she could take her owls, and it had been Seamus's very first meeting, and Neville had been getting so good.
Fizzing Wisby,
sang Umbridge. The stone gargoyle jumped aside. The wall behind split open, and they ascended the moving stone staircase. They reached the polished door with the griffin knocker, but Umbridge did not bother to knock. She strode straight inside, still holding tight to Harry. Harry is happy something horrible will happen very soon with a premonition. The office was full of people. Dumbledore was sitting behind his desk, his expression serene, the tips of his long fingers together. Ooh. Professor McGonagall stood rigidly beside him, her face extremely tense. Cornelius Fudge, Minister for Magic, was rocking backwards and forwards on his toes beside the fire, apparently immensely pleased with the situation. Kingsley Shacklebolt, and a tough-looking wizard with very short, wiry hair, whom Harry did not recognize. Adjectives, please, for this person, just from the book, and nothing that has been said yet. What I'm saying is don't spoil anything, just give me adjectives. That's it, nothing else for this person. Were positioned either side of the door like guards, and the freckled, bespectacled form of Percy Weasley hovered excitedly beside that wall, a quill and a heavy scroll of parchment in his hands, apparently poised to take notes. Well, here we go.
Boo to Percy.
Boo to Percy indeed. No spoilers, please. Yes. The portraits of old headmasters and headmistresses were not shamming sleep tonight. All of them were alert and serious, watching what was happening below them. As Harry entered, a few flitted into neighboring frames and whispered urgently into their neighbor's ear. This is intense. This is so like it's packed. Jeez. Harry pulled himself... Oh, my cell phone died. Oh well. So you don't get Dex Cam anymore. Harry pulled himself free of Umbridge's grasp as the door swung shut behind them. Cornelius Fudge was glaring at him with a kind of vicious satisfaction on his face. Well, no, that's the Haggard. Well, he said. Yeah, that's it. Well. Row. Harry replied with the dirtiest look he could muster, his heart drumming madly inside him. But his brain was oddly cool and clear. Yes, from the lessons with Snape.
He was heading back to Gryffindor Tower,
said Umbridge. There was an indecent excitement in her voice, the same callous pleasure Harry had heard as he watched Professor Trelawney dissolving with misery in the entrance hall.
The Malfoy boy cornered him.
Did he? Cornelius Fudge. There we go, yes. Did he?
Said Fudge appreciatively.
I must remember to tell Lucius. Well, Potter, I expect you know why you are here.
Harry fully intended to respond with a defiant yes. His mouth had opened, and the word was half-formed when he caught sight of Dumbledore's face. Dumbledore was not looking directly at Harry. His eyes were fixed on a point just over his shoulder, but as Harry stared at him, he shook his head a fraction of an inch to each side. Oh, that's so cool. I just love that. It's a great little detail. Don't do it, Harry. Just don't. Harry changed direction mid-word. No.
I beg your pardon,
said Fudge. No, said Harry firmly.
You don't know why you are here?
No, I don't, said Harry. Intense situation. Fudge looked incredulously from Harry to Professor Umbridge. Harry took advantage of this momentary inattention to steal another quick look at Dumbledore, who gave the carpet the tiniest of nods and the shadow of a wink.
So, you have no idea,
said Fudge in a voice positively sagging with sarcasm,
why Professor Umbridge has brought you to this office. You are not aware that you have broken any school rules?
School rules? Said Harry. No.
Or ministry decrees?
Amended Fudge angrily. Not that I'm aware of, said Harry blandly. I love this. His heart was still hammering very fast. It was almost worth telling these lies to watch Fudge's blood pressure rising. But he could not see how on earth he would get away with them. If somebody had tipped off Umbridge about the DA, then he, the leader, might as well be packing his trunk right now.
So it's news to you, is it?
Said Fudge, his voice now thick with anger.
That an illegal student organization has been discovered within the school?
Yes, it is, said Harry, hoisting an unconvincing look of innocent surprise onto his face.
I think, Minister,
said Umbridge silkily from beside him,
we might make better progress if I fetch our informant.
Yes, do,
said Fudge, nodding, and he glanced maliciously at Dumbledore as Umbridge left the room.
There's nothing like a good witness, is there, Dumbledore?
Nothing at all, Cornelius,
said Dumbledore gravely, inclining his head. There was a wait of several minutes in which nobody looked at each other. Then Harry heard the door open behind him. Umbridge moved past him into the room, gripping by the shoulder Cho's curly-haired friend, Marietta, who was hiding her face in her hands. I don't remember her character.
I don't think she's come up.
I don't think so either.
Or spoken very much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't be scared, dear. Don't be frightened,
said Professor Umbridge softly, patting her on the back.
It's quite all right now. You have done the right thing. The minister is very pleased with you. He'll be telling your mother what a good girl you've been.
Ugh.
Marietta's mother, Minister, she added, looking up at Fudge, is Madam Edgecombe from the Department of Magical Transportation, Flu Network Office. She's been helping us police the Hogwarts fires, you know?
Jolly good,
Said Fudge heartily.
like mother, like daughter, eh? Well, come on now, dear. Look up, don't be shy. Let's hear what you've got. Galloping gargoyles!
As Marietta raised her head, Fudge leapt backwards in shock, nearly landing himself in the fire. He cursed and stamped on the hem of his cloak, which had started to smoke. Marietta gave a wail and pulled the neck of her robes right up to her eyes, but not before everyone had seen that her face was horribly disfigured by a series of close-set purple pustules that had spread across her nose and cheeks to form the word sneak. Okay, that's crazy. So somebody from the class has done this to her. What are pustules?
Like, it sounds like pustules,
Maybe that's what it is.
but that would be like
It's P-O-S-T-U-L-E-S.
oily pimple things is pustules.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably that.
Pustules is probably the same.
This is Hermione's work.
You think?
She's put some kind of hex or thing over the class. She's done something.
So that when anybody says something about the DA,
They get
that
sneak written
all
across
over
their face.
Ah.
This is Hermione's work.
Never mind the spots now, dear.
Said Umbridge impatiently.
Just take your robes away from your mouth.
Just take off your robes, I almost said. Oh, jeez.
Just take your robes away from your mouth and tell the minister.
No, sorry, this is Umbridge. Okay, well, she said that. But Marietta gave another muffled wail and shook her head frantically. Oh, big pimples. Gotcha.
Very well, you silly girl. I'll tell him,
Snapped Umbridge. She hitched. It's not going to work because that's not a witness. She hitched her sickly smile back onto her face and said,
Well, Minister, Miss Edgecombe here came to my office shortly after dinner this evening and told me she had something she wanted to tell me. She said that if I proceeded to a secret room on the 7th floor, sometimes known as the Room of Requirement, I would find out something to my advantage. I questioned her a little further, and she admitted that there was to be some kind of meeting there. Unfortunately, at this point, this hex,
she waved impatiently at Marietta's concealed face,
came into operation, and upon catching sight of her face in my mirror, the girl became too distressed to tell me any more.
Well now,
said Fudge, fixing Marietta with what he evidently imagined was a kind and fatherly look.
it is very brave of you, my dear, coming to tell Professor Umbridge. You did exactly the right thing. Now, will you tell me what happened at this meeting? What was its purpose? Who was there?
But Marietta would not speak. She merely shook her head again, her eyes wide and fearful.
Haven't we got a counter-jinx for this?
Fudge asked Umbridge impatiently, gesturing at Marietta's face.
So she can speak freely?
I have not yet managed to find one.
Umbridge admitted grudgingly, and Harry felt a surge of pride in Hermione's jinxing ability. Okay, yeah.
But it doesn't...
But it doesn't matter if she won't speak. I can take up the story from here. You will remember, Minister, that I sent you a report back in October that Potter had met a number of fellow students in the Hog's Head in Hogsmeade.
And what, who's this? Oh, McGonagall. And what is your evidence for that? Cut in Professor McGonagall.
I have testimony from Willie Witterson's Minerva, who happened to be in the bar at the time. He was heavily bandaged. It is true, but his hearing was quite unimpaired,
said Umbridge smugly.
He heard every word Potter said and hastened straight to the school to report to me. Oh, so that's why he hasn't. He wasn't prosecuted for setting up all those regurgitating toilets. Regurgitating toilets, said Professor McGonagall, raising her eyebrows. What an interesting insight into our justice system.
Who's this now? Red-nosed wizard on the wall behind. Okay.
Blatant corruption!
Roared the portrait of the corpulent red-nosed wizard on the wall behind Dumbledore's desk. Maybe he's just drunk.
The Ministry did not cut deals with petty criminals in my day, no, sir. They did not.
I like it. Yeah, me too.
Thank you, Fortescue. That will do,
said Dumbledore softly.
The purpose of Potter's meeting with these students, continued Professor Umbridge, was to persuade them to join an illegal society whose aim was to learn spells and curses the Ministry has decided are inappropriate for school age.
I think you'll find you're wrong there, Dolores,
said Umbridge quietly, peering at her over the half-moon spectacles perched halfway down his crooked nose. Harry stared at him. He could not see how Dumbledore was going to talk his way out of this one. If Willie Wittershins had indeed heard every word he had said in the Hog's Head, there was simply no escaping it.
"Oh!"
said Fudge, bouncing up and down on the balls of his feet again.
"Yes, do let's hear the latest cock and bull story designed to pull Potter out of trouble. Go on then, Dumbledore. Go on."
Fortescue I can't read that right now.
Willie Wittershins was blind, was he? Or was it Potter's identical twin in the Hog's Head that day? Or is there the unusual symbol explanation involving a reversal of time, a dead man coming back to life, and a couple of invisible Dementors?
Percy Weasley let out a hearty laugh. Very good, Minister. Very good. Harry could have kicked him. Then he saw to his astonishment that Dumbledore was smiling gently too. Who's saying this? Okay, it's Dumbledore.
Cornelius, I do not deny, and nor, I'm sure, does Harry, that he was in the Hog's Head that day, nor that he was trying to recruit students to a defense against the Dark Arts group. I am merely pointing out that Dolores is quite wrong to suggest that such a group was, at that time, legal. If you remember, the Ministry decree banning all student societies was not put into effect until 2 days after Harry's Hogsmeade meeting, so he was not breaking any rules at all in the Hog's Head.
Percy looked as though he had been struck in the face by something very heavy. Fudge remained motionless in mid-bounce, his mouth hanging open.
Duh!
Umbridge recovered first.
That's all very fine, Headmaster,
she said, smiling sweetly.
But we are now nearly 6 months on from the introduction of Educational Decree number 24. If the first meeting was not illegal, all those that have happened since most certainly are.
Well,
said Dumbledore, surveying her with polite interest over the top of his interlocked fingers.
They certainly would be, if they had continued after the decree came into effect. Do you have any evidence that any such meetings continued?
As Dumbledore spoke, Harry heard a rustle behind him, and rather thought Kingsley whispered something. He could have sworn, too, that he felt something brush against his side, a gentle something like a draught or bird wings, but looking down he saw nothing there.
Evidence,
repeated Umbridge, with that horrible, wide, toad-like smile.
Have you not been listening, Dumbledore? Why do you think Miss Edgecombe is here?
Oh, can she tell us about 6 months' worth of meetings?
Said Dumbledore, raising his eyebrows.
I was under the impression that she was merely reporting a meeting tonight.
Miss Edgecombe,
said Umbridge at once.
tell us how long these meetings have been going on, dear? You can simply nod or shake your head. I'm sure that won't make the spots worse. Have they been happening regularly over the last 6 months?
Harry felt a horrible plummeting in his stomach. This was it. They'd hit a dead end of solid evidence that not even Dumbledore would be able to shift aside.
Just nod or shake your head, dear, Umbridge said coaxingly to Marietta. Come on now. That won't reactivate the jinx.
Everyone in the room was gazing at the top of Marietta's face. Only her eyes were visible between the pulled-up robes and her curly fringe. Perhaps it was a trick of the firelight, but her eyes looked oddly blank. And then, to Harry's utter amazement, Marietta shook her head. Whoa! Umbridge looked quickly at Fudge, then back at Marietta.
I don't think you understand the question, did you, dear? I'm asking whether you've been going to these meetings for the past 6 months. You have, haven't you?
Again, Marietta shook her head.
What do you mean by shaking your head, dear? Said Umbridge in a testy voice. I would have thought her meaning was quite clear, said Professor McGonagall harshly. There have been no secret meetings for the past 6 months. Is that correct, Miss Edgecombe?
Marietta nodded.
But there was a meeting tonight, said Umbridge furiously. There was a meeting, Miss Edgecombe. You told me about it in the room of requirement. And Potter was the leader, was he not? Potter organized it. Potter! Why are you shaking your head, girl? Well, usually when a person shakes their head, said McGonagall coldly, they mean no. So unless Miss Edgecombe is using a form of sign language as yet unknown to humans.
Love it. Professor Umbridge seized Marietta, pulled her around to face her, and began shaking her very hard. A split second later, Dumbledore was on his feet, his wand raised. Kingsley started forwards, and Umbridge leapt back from Marietta, waving her hands in the air as though they had been burned.
I cannot allow you to manhandle my students, Dolores,
said Dumbledore, and for the first time he looked angry.
You want to calm yourself, Madam Umbridge, said Kingsley in his deep, slow voice. You don't want to get yourself into trouble now.
No,
said Umbridge breathlessly, glancing up the towering figure of Kingsley.
I mean, yes, you're right, Shacklebolt. I forgot myself.
Marietta was standing exactly where Umbridge had released her. She seemed neither perturbed by Umbridge's sudden attack. Whoa. I'll just turn it down a little bit. She was still clutching her robe up to her oddly blank eyes and staring straight ahead of her. A sudden suspicion, connected to Kingsley's whisper, and the thing he had felt shoot past him, sprang into Harry's mind.
Dolores,
said Fudge.
Dolores,
said Fudge, with the air of trying to settle something once and for all.
The meeting tonight, the one we know definitely happened.
Yes,
said Umbridge, pulling herself together.
Yes. Well, Miss Edgecombe tipped me off, and I proceeded at once to the 7th floor, accompanied by certain trustworthy students, so as to catch those in the meeting red-handed. It appears that they were forewarned of my arrival, however, because when we reached the 7th floor, they were running in every direction. It does not matter, however. I've all their names here. Miss Parkinson ran into the room of requirement for me to see if they'd left anything behind. We needed evidence, and the room provided.
And to Harry's horror, she withdrew from her pocket the list of names that had been pinned upon the Room of Requirement's wall, and handed it to Fudge.
The moment I saw Potter's name on the list, I knew what we were dealing with,
she said softly.
Excellent,
said Fudge, a smile spreading across his face.
Excellent, Dolores. And By thunder!
He looked up at Dumbledore, who was still standing beside Marietta, his wand held loosely in his hand.
See what they've named themselves,
said Fudge quietly.
Dumbledore's Army.
Dumbledore reached out and took the piece of parchment from Fudge. He gazed at the heading scribbled by Hermione months before, and for a moment seemed unable to speak. Then he looked up, smiling. Oh, he loves it! That is so sweet. I love that. He's like, hell yeah! Love it. This is such a great moment.
Well, the game is up, he said simply. Would you like a written confession from me, Cornelius? Or will a statement before these witnesses suffice?
Harry saw McGonagall and Kingsley look at each other. There was fear in both faces. He did not understand what was going on, and nor, apparently, did Fudge.
Statement?
Said Fudge slowly.
What? I don't. Dumbledore's army, Cornelius,
said Dumbledore, still smiling, as he waved the list of names before Fudge's faces.
Not Potter's army. Dumbledore's army. What?
Understanding blazed suddenly in Fudge's face. He took a horrified step backwards, yelped, and jumped out of the fire again.
You!
He whispered, stamping again on his smoldering cloak.
That's right,
said Dumbledore pleasantly.
You organized this?
I did, said Dumbledore.
You recruited these students for your army? Tonight was supposed to be the first meeting, said Dumbledore, nodding. Merely to see whether they would be interested in joining me. I see now that it was a mistake to invite Miss Edgecombe. Of course.
Marionetta nodded. Fudge looked from her to Dumbledore, his chest swelling.
Then you have been plotting against me!
He yelled.
That's right,
said Dumbledore cheerfully. No! Shouted Harry.
Come on, Harry.
Oh, please don't screw this up, Harry! Kingsley flashed a look of warning at him. McGonagall widened her eyes threateningly. But it had suddenly dawned on Harry what Dumbledore was about to do, and he could not let it happen. No! Professor Dumbledore!
Be quiet, Harry, or I'm afraid you will have to leave my office,
said Dumbledore calmly.
Yes, shut up, Potter! Be quiet, Harry! I'm afraid you will have to leave my office!
Said Dumbledore calmly. Thanks for catching that, Mark. That was a good catch. I forgot all about that. Oh, this music is pretty loud. Let me know if it's okay on your end. Over here, it's okay. It's just too much right now. I'll just restart this one. There we go. Barked Fudge, who was still ogling Dumbledore with a kind of horrified delight.
Well. I came here tonight, expecting to expel Potter, and instead... Instead? You get to arrest me, said Dumbledore, smiling. It's like losing a Knut and finding a galleon, isn't it? Weasley! Cried Fudge, now positively quivering with delight. Weasley! Have you written it all down? Everything he said? His confession? Have you got it?
Yes, sir. I think so, sir, said Percy eagerly, whose nose was splattered with ink from the speed of his note-taking.
That bit about how he's been trying to build up an army against the Ministry, how he's been working to destabilize me?
Yes, sir. I've got it. Yes, said Percy, scanning his notes joyfully.
Very well, then, said Fudge, now radiant with glee. Duplicate your notes, Weasley, and send a copy to the Daily Prophet at once. If we send a fast owl, we should make the morning edition.
Percy dashed from the room, slamming the door behind him, and Fudge turned back to Dumbledore.
You will now be escorted back to the Ministry, where you will be formally charged, then sent to Azkaban to await trial.
Ah, said Dumbledore gently.
Yes. I thought we might hit that little snag. Snag?
said Fudge, his voice still vibrating with joy.
I sees no snag. Dumbledore. Well, said Dumbledore apologetically, I'm afraid you do. I'm afraid I do. Oh, really? Well, it's just that you seem to be laboring under the delusion that I'm going to, what is the phrase? Come quietly. I'm afraid I'm not going to come quietly at all, Cornelius. I have absolutely no intention of being sent to Azkaban. I could break out, of course, but what a waste of time. And frankly, I can think of a whole host of things I would rather be doing.
He's so awesome.
So great.
He's the best.
So great.
What a boss.
Yeah.
He was like, no. Oh, so good. Badass Brian is coming.
Oh yeah.
Who's...
One of his names is Brian, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Albus Wolfric Brian.
Yeah, but be careful. Don't tell me something's coming, okay? Be careful of that, please. Umbridge's face was growing steadily redder. She looked as though she was being filled with boiling water. Fudge stared at Dumbledore with a very silly expression on his face, as though he had just been stunned by a sudden blow and could not quite believe it had happened. He made a small choking noise. Then looked around at Kingsley and the man with short grey hair, who alone of everyone in the room had remained entirely silent so far. The latter gave Fudge a reassuring nod and moved forwards a little away from the wall. Harry saw his hand drift almost casually towards his pocket. Okay, we are getting close to 7:30 here, Mark. You said you only have it till 7:30, right?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Okay, cool. Lois, does this scene go on for a while? Just let me know that.
I think we're close to the end, but I don't have...
Okay.
Like at home, I would have my book.
Yeah.
I would read ahead
I'll finish this page and take a glance at the second, and
Yeah.
if not, then we'll have to end.
Don't be silly, Dawlish,
Said Dumbledore kindly.
I'm sure you are an excellent aura. I seem to remember that you achieved outstanding in all your newts. But if you attempt to, bring me in by force, I will have to hurt you.
Oh my gosh!
This person was like one of his former students.
Yeah,
sounds
and he's like, I'm going to hurt you. The man called Dawlish blinked rather foolishly. He looked towards Fudge again, but this time seemed to be hoping for a clue as to what to do next.
So,
Sneered Fudge, recovering himself.
you intend to take on Dawlish, Shacklebolt, Dolores and myself single-handed, do you, Dumbledore? Merlin's beard, no,
said Dumbledore, smiling.
not unless you are foolish enough to force me to.
He will not be single-handed, said Professor McGonagall loudly, plunging her hand inside her robes.
Oh yes, he will, Minerva,
Said Dumbledore sharply.
Hogwarts needs you. Enough of this rubbish,
Said Fudge, pulling out his own wand.
Dawlish, Shacklebolt, take him!
A streak of silver light flashed around the room. There was a bang like a gunshot, and the floor trembled. A hand grabbed the scruff of Harry's neck and forced him down on the floor. As a second silver flash went off, several of the portraits yelled, Fawkes screeched, and a cloud of dust filled the air. Coughing in the dust, Harry saw a dark figure fall to the ground with a crash in front of him. There was a shriek and a thud, and someone cried, "No!" Then there was a sound of breaking glass, frantically scuffling footsteps, a groan, and silence. Harry struggled around to see who was half strangling him, and saw Professor McGonagall crouched beside him. She had forced both him and Marietta out of harm's way. Dust was still floating gently down through the air onto them. Panting slightly, Harry saw a small, very tall figure moving towards them. "Are you all right?" Dumbledore asked.
Are you all right?
Dumbledore asked. "Yes," said Professor McGonagall, getting up and dragging Harry and Marietta with her. The dust was clearing. The wreckage of the office loomed into view. Dumbledore's desk had been overturned. All of the spindly tables had been knocked to the floor. There were silver instruments in pieces. Fudge, Umbridge, Kingsley, and Dawlish lay motionless on the floor. Fawkes, the phoenix, soared in wide circles above them, singing softly.
Unfortunately, I had to hex Kingsley too, or it would have looked very suspicious,
said Dumbledore in a low voice.
He was remarkably quick on the uptake, modifying Miss Edgecombe's memory like that while everyone was looking the other way. Thank him for me, won't you, Minerva?
Okay, this is a good spot to end.
I just have to run downstairs for 1 second. I'll be right back.
Okay, cool. Woo-wee! That was intense. Hey, Lois.
Yeah. I've been waiting. I was hoping we would get here tonight, and I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I was like timing out the pages at home. I was like, will we get here? I don't know.
That was so good. That was unreal. Dumbledore is a biggest badass.
Between him and McGonagall, like, McGonagall is the level of sass that I aspire to in my life.
Yeah, she's badass too. She's
Yeah.
ready to jump in, make this happen. Oh man, so intense. Dumbledore tampering with evidence, right? She chills
Yeah,
every
just,
time.
Like, change her memory while everyone's looking the other
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
Perfect.
crazy. Oh, okay. Y'all got any questions for Mark, even Lois, myself here? That was pretty Lois and JV match. Oh, we do.
Oh,
We do
yeah.
match.
That was good.
You can come over a bit over this way. This is Mark's last few minutes here. Mark's last time. Oh, that's so sad. I'm gonna miss you, buddy.
I'll miss you guys too.
Yeah. What a scene. You've done it very well. Thank you very much. There's one page left. Is there?
Okay, buddy.
Is there? Oh, there is. Well, it's okay.
Tomorrow.
It's okay. Yeah, tomorrow we'll get there. Mark! Just imagine Coldplay playing and rain falling, and we're all on our knees. Mark! What will you be doing in Toronto, Mark, from Kerry?
Well, my girlfriend is going to a master's program, so that's what's bringing me out there. I am confident the right thing will come my way at the right time, but once we get there, we're going to be looking for a place, and I'm going to be looking for some work. So if anybody lives in Toronto and wants to connect or knows somebody in Toronto, shoot me a message.
We definitely have some Toronto folks on the feed.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we do, right?
I mean, Shay, Josh,
Right.
Kaylee, Sawyer.
Yeah, we got a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, reach out, everybody. That's a great idea. Get this man a job. Mark, will you still be tuning in, providing sass via chat?
Oh yes, yeah, as often as I can. We're gonna take probably between 8 to 10 days driving to Toronto. So whenever we're in the car at 6 Pacific, I'll be tuning in, and I'll ask Hillary to comment for me when she can, because I'll be driving. So.
And something people have been saying is we should record your booze.
That's right. Yeah, can we do
let's-
that tomorrow morning?
Absolutely.
Sweet.
We will do
There's
that.
some
We will
time
get that in there, so Mark will still have his voice being there. What kind of work would you be looking for, Mark?
For the last 2-3 years, I've been working in childhood education, teaching theater and art to kids from preschool age as early as 18 months up until grade 7. And I've also done a big show, and I coordinated a bunch of different art teachers. So I would really like to do some work in any other art organizations, art focused places, or not-for-profit companies. Continuing my project management skills, my project coordination skills, that kind of stuff. I would love to do more work like that. I mostly really just want to work with a really great group of creative people.
And very
That
creative.
would be great.
He's in a lot of amazing creative things, so you know you can have some trust in that for sure. Okay. That's for Mark. Last time on the feed. We'll be seeing him in the chat. I'm sure at some point I'll probably hop over to Toronto. We can maybe do a read there.
Yeah, that would be,
That'd be
so fun. Yeah,
For old time's sake.
Yeah, heck yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. You have a place to crash for sure.
Yeah. Good luck. All the best to you, Mark. We have Mark as a special guest for some time. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that'll happen too. I'll try and make that happen somehow. I'm
Yeah,
not
of
pretty
course.
sure how.
Yeah, we'll make it work.
Goodbye, everybody. We're gonna be back tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Bye from us. Lots of love to Mark. Lots of love to Lois also, who's here. And we will see you tomorrow. Lots of love to Mark.
Bye, everybody.
Boo!
Love from me to you.